Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, KLIXcast and Jill Skeene.
Well, good morning and welcome to Top Story, 7360300. Always the number to call. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning, Kelly.
So nice to see you here this morning.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
And you look really nice today.
Well,
I mean, not to say that you don't always look nice.
Well,
but you look especially nice today.
Thank you. We have a little court case going on in our neighborhood, and it's going to court at 9:30, so I'm going to have to leave at 9:20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I say.
Yeah, so anyway. Hey,
Well,
how was your birthday weekend?
It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So do you feel older? We actually had a really nice lunch.
Yes, we did. With
Friday.
Rebecca Milsoika and her friend.
Kayla. I can't remember her last
can't
name.
either.
It was a difficult last name. I'm sorry, Kayla. But we had a lot of fun. And
Yes, we
then
did.
you went on to dinner.
I did, yes. The family had dinner at one of the local establishments that night. And
Did you have cake? Because you refused your birthday dessert
no,
at
but
lunch.
I got a free bowl of ice cream with chocolate syrup.
Oh, that's good.
They called it a sundae, but it was more like a bowl of ice cream with chocolate syrup, which was fine.
No whipped
it was
cream
fine.
and a cherry?
It was fine. No, but that's okay. It was great. It was fine.
Did people sing?
No, not really.
Are you sure it was your birthday?
We're not big celebrants in our family.
I
we
guess.
just
Did you
kinda
get
go.
anything as a gift?
Tracy,
You better have gotten your dad something.
No, we just had get together with the family. That was.
No one got you a gift?
No,
Stop.
that's okay.
No, it's not.
I don't have to have gifts.
Did you get a card?
Got one from everybody here at the station, and I think I got one from the last place I bought a car.
Tracy? I know. It's amazing when establishments remember your birthday more than your family will get. Tracy, how come you didn't buy your dad a card? Come on.
Oh, that's okay.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You need cards.
That's fine. My mother-in-law got me a card.
Okay, that's nice.
And and a $20 bill.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact. So
Well, you know what
I did
they
get
say.
a gift
You know what they say? Behind every successful man.
as a surprised mother-in-law.
Boom! That's it. I love that.
Yes, indeed. Well, hey, we have.
Welcome.
We
Wait,
have,
I didn't get to do
oh,
my
I'm sorry.
shout-outs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was at the farmer's market, the last farmer's market of the year, and a lot of listeners came by. So I'm going to give a shout-out to them because I told them I would.
Well, you go ahead and do that, and I'm going to go in the other room and
Fine.
grab a little breakfast or something.
Give a little shout-out to Gracie, who listens every day. She listens till 9 o'clock. So hi, Gracie.
Hi, Gracie.
Dennis came by, and he liked my soup. And Kelly came by, and he liked both my soups, even though they didn't have any animal products in there. I think he said he was the split pea connoisseur his whole life with ham hocks in it, but he liked my soup. Isn't that right, Kelly? Todd and Laura stopped by. Tina stopped by, and Scott stopped by. So
Very good.
thank you so much. And if I forgot someone, I'm sorry. What can I say? And I ran out of 2 big pots of soup by 11:30. I'm like, oh.
I told you should take
Make
them
one
all.
more.
Yeah, you were considering, and I said you better do it, but you didn't listen to me.
What are you
so.
talking about? I made more than I normally make, but it was going like
Well, it still
hotcakes. I
wasn't
had
enough.
split pea and vegetable chili, and everyone liked everything.
Wow, very
so it was
cool.
really nice. So anyway, those are your shout-outs. Thanks for stopping by and listening.
Yeah, very good.
There, they probably think she's never going to remember.
But you wrote them down. You fooled them.
I do. Well, there's starting to be so many, you know. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, yeah.
You're so popular.
No, I don't think so. I think they just probably want free soup. No, some of them bought cookbooks and
Jill,
for gifts. Bill bought. So anyway, hey, I just want to say thank you to everyone who came by, tried my soup, and bought a cookbook.
Come by Jill's Soup Kitchen.
I know. That'd be cute. You know, I think about that. Wouldn't that be neat, like a little mobile truck and have just nice soups and stuff?
That would be, as long as you move it every 24
Yeah,
hours, you're good.
let's just move it every 24 hours around my driveway and back or somewhere. You're like, oh, gosh. Thank you, City of Twin. Whatever.
Oh, my. Okay. Well, hey, we have Randy Staples coming up at 8:40 with his Idaho political update. Mm-hmm. And he's the only guest we have today.
Yeah, surprisingly enough,
there you
because
go.
it is political season.
Yep. We do have a little news to talk about, though. Remember when last week we talked to Shelley Wright from the CSI Over 60 and Getting Fit program?
I do remember.
And they were having that Guinness Book of World Records
They
pumpkin
were.
thing. I guess there's a new way to spell pumpkin now. It's Pumkin,
Pumpkin.
according to the Times News anyway.
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin. Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
There's no P.
Pum.
Anyway, I digress. They
hit
broke
your
the
pet
record.
Eve.
What happened here? I didn't
I know.
write down the number.
I know.
It was
I was looking.
1,461. If I were right around, it was over 1,400 pumpkins. The record was over 1,300. And that is to have the number of pumpkins all in a line, the Guinness Book of World Records. Well, they broke the record on Saturday with over 1,400 pumpkins.
Awesome.
So very cool.
Very exciting.
The College of Southern Idaho's Over 60 and Getting Fit program.
Well, good. I saw some pictures on Facebook, and they're all lined up.
So now Idaho finally is the top dog on a good list.
In something. Besides breastfeeding their babies. Wow, we got something to match.
Yeah, that's right.
Way to go.
That's right. Okay, so now the next...
We're not the best in spelling, though. There you go. All right.
And maybe they did that on purpose. I don't know. Anyway, there's some really, really good news here, folks.
Is there?
In case we needed another reason to love chocolate. A new study suggests that a natural compound found in cocoa, tea, and some vegetables can reverse age-related memory loss.
Really?
The findings suggest that the compound increases connectivity and subsequently blood flow in a region of the brain critical to memory. The study, published online Sunday in Nature Neuroscience and partly financed by the chocolate company.
Really? What a shock. What a shock.
Found that flavanols reverse mild memory loss in older adults. Using brain scans and memory tests, the latest study built on previous work showing that flavanols extracted from cocoa beans had improved neuronal connections in mice's dentate gyrus, a part of the brain involved in memory formation. The bottom line here is, folks, the more chocolate you eat, the more you will remember.
Well,
that's all I need to know.
The interesting part is if you just ate the flavanols that were extracted from the cocoa beans, that would probably be good. But then you mix it with sugar and butter and stuff.
Well, you got to make it palatable.
Right, but then some things can counteract the benefits of the flavanols.
But who wants to just eat flavanols, for crying out loud?
I mean, that is not the point.
No, the point is the more chocolate you eat.
Yes, and I'm so glad the study was sponsored by the chocolate company. I'm sure they had nothing to do with the results.
I'm sure they didn't.
And let's reprint this so people like us will read it, and then people will run to the grocery store just in time for Halloween and buy those chocolates. So you're like, honey, are you eating a Snickers? You're like, no, I'm improving my memory.
That's right.
So now Kelly has one more reason to improve your memory.
Absolutely.
Lord knows, a show sometimes you do forget things.
Now, you can go ahead and eat those Snickers bars if you want, but I like the more intense kind. I go right for the all-chocolate Hershey's chocolate bar. Oh,
because your memory is that important. We don't want to diffuse it with peanuts and caramel. Just go right for the chocolate.
I want that intravenous type delivery.
Hey.
I want the real stuff and the dark stuff, too.
The part you forgot to read, my friend, it says, but hold that chocolate bar. The researchers also warn that the compound found in cocoa exists only in minuscule amounts in the average chocolate bar, compared with the amount used in the study. So gorging on chocolate in the name of health and improving one's memory could, wait for it, backfire.
Yeah, but then again, it might not.
It would make a lot of people happy, but it would also make them unhealthy. So anyway, there's always more to the story.
I may not be able to move, but I will be able to remember everything.
You'll remember every chocolate bar you ate.
That's right.
There you go.
With every pitch, Madison Bumgarner etched his place among the World Series greats. The long, tall lefty kept slinging away and put the San Francisco Giants just one win from yet another championship, throwing a four-hitter to beat the Kansas City Royals 5-0 Sunday night for a 3-2 series edge.
It was fun. We watched it last night. We sort of get into that, You got to get into it.
We had a story last week that the World Series was losing favor among television viewers. There were like 12.1 million the first night, I think, and then the next night 12.9 million.
But then again, it went against The Voice.
Well, see, that's what they said.
So last night, I wonder what the numbers were for last night.
It doesn't say.
And the sad thing about last night, it was good. It was fun to watch. It was tied up, and San Francisco had the momentum from the night before when they kind of clobbered the Royals. So it was fun to watch. I hope they win it. But the sad part was, I felt so badly. Aaron Lewis, was that the man?
The guy who sang the Star Spangled Banner.
And I have to say, we pay attention to that. Tom loves it. We always tape it. We always try to find it before any sporting game. He loves the Star Spangled Banner.
Tom's a Marine, right?
Yeah, it almost brings tears to his eyes. Seriously,
cool.
He loves it. So we pay attention to it. And when he started to sing, I'm like, honey, he blew the words. He goes, oh no. I say, oh, this poor man. Like your biggest
national television.
A nightmare. Okay, so the minimum 12.1 million people. It's so sad. And he was doing it very slowly, and I thought, oh no, is he doing it because he's really trying to remember the words now? I mean, I just can't imagine the panic and the nerves, and he feels so badly about it, and his nerves.
And once it's done, it's
etched
done.
There forever.
That's live television.
It's etched there forever. Everyone's probably going to show that today.
Oh, I know. It's probably going to go viral on Facebook. Anyway, he did have a message after that. He said, all I can say is, I'm sorry, and ask for the nation's forgiveness.
And I should have eaten more chocolate.
Maybe that's his problem. My nerves got the best of me, and I am completely torn up about what happened. America is the greatest country in the world. The Star Spangled Banner means so much to so many, including myself. I hope everyone can understand the intensity of the situation and my true intent of this performance. I hope that the nation, Major League Baseball, and the many fans of our national pastime can forgive me.
I felt so badly, and I can imagine. I mean, a lot of times, on the show you misspeak at times, but if we were, and you don't know how many people are listening, which is sometimes better, but to stand up and do it, I can understand. It'd just be awful. Feel badly.
I can't even imagine.
I can't even imagine saying yes to that, an a cappella.
Yeah.
There's no music behind you.
You can't even drown yourself in the music. Yeah.
You can't. You just hope the rockets, blast off at that point. But they didn't. It was right at the start of the.
That's kind of like.
It's like the second sentence.
That's kind of like one of those nightmares that you have, like you're still in high school and you're naked.
Yeah.
Except maybe for underpants or something like that.
Yeah.
I still have those.
Do you?
Yes.
That you feel like you're naked?
Yes. Or you can't remember the combination to your locker. Of course, that was real. After I'd come back from Christmas vacation, I could never remember the combination to my locker.
You mean you weren't eating enough chocolate over the break?
I couldn't even remember where my... That's right. I couldn't remember where my locker was.
You didn't have enough chocolate during Christmas break?
It was a nightmare, I'll tell you. My high school years were a nightmare. One right after the other. Anyway, we got quarantines going on now in New York and New Jersey. We'll talk about that when we come back here on Top Story. 7360300 is the number. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. What are you laughing about?
Your last comment. Never mind. You are too funny. Never mind. And the look on your face. Honestly, people, the best part of the show is during the breaks. Kelly.
What you're trying to say is I'm funnier off the break than I am on the...
Sometimes your best moments can be at the break.
Okay, well, I'll keep that in mind.
It really was your look on your face that got me. Okay, sorry.
Well, hey, I just wanted to say that stop by Canyon Pond. Jill and I stopped by Canyon Pond last week.
We had a really
great
good time. We did.
And we kind of moseyed around, looked at the stuff that was on the shelves there, brand new items, used items, camping stuff, woodworking stuff, fishing poles, tools, guns, all kinds of guns. And with hunting season in full swing right now, that might be a place you want to stop by. They are on Shoshone Street, right across from Will's Toyota, at 3rd Avenue South, right on the corner there. And they would love for you to stop by and say hi.
They would. They have all sorts of really interesting things.
They do. It's a typical pawn shop.
From cooking stuff to crazy stuff,
and it's clean. It's so clean.
Very clean, like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got a caller, so let's take it. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You neglected to add a sports score to your sports team before the break, and it is Ohio State 31, Penn State 24.
You're right. And that was the most agonizing game I ever watched. It went into double overtime, Kelly. Thank you, listener. We were up 17-0. We had 24 unanswered points. I thought I was going to puke. And I'm texting with my friends that are from Ohio State as well. One's in Illinois, one's in Ohio, a couple in Ohio. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, are we going to lose this game? Then we tie it up. Then Tom goes to bed. He was just wanting a close game, but he fell asleep. But he goes to bed, and I have to suffer through double overtime by myself. Awful, but we came out ahead. It was awful. This is why I go gray, because I'm a Ohio State football fan. We all are. It's horrible. Anyway, thank you for reminding me. I did put that out of my mind.
Well, Boise State clobbered BYU, too.
That was a shocker.
Yeah.
I know. Well, they've lost their quarterback. They've had a few bad. Okay, so anyway, moving on. But yes, Ohio State beat Penn State.
We still got this thing going on, Ebola. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced quarantine guidelines on Sunday evening for patients who may have been exposed to Ebola. The new guidelines will allow healthcare workers who have had contact with patients infected with Ebola to stay at home for 21 days rather than at a medical facility. The health of those individuals would be monitored throughout that period. Healthcare workers returning from West Africa who had not had contact with Ebola patients would be monitored at a less rigorous level. Cuomo also defended implementing a mandatory 3-week quarantine after the practice came under fire from federal officials and a nurse who was detained, apparently in a tent in New Jersey with a porta potty. What?
Well, first she was detained. If you read her account at the airport, they just stop her, keep her there for 6 hours. Don't tell her what. Don't tell her what she's doing. She had to ask for some water, some food. You had no idea what was happening. No one even told anything, mentioned anything to her, and then directly put her in quarantine. And Chris Christie's telling people that she had symptoms. She's asymptomatic. It's just amazing that, I love when these Republican, and Cuomo's not a Republican, but like Chris Christie, when you're asked about climate change or any other Republican, they're like, I'm not a scientist. Yet you ask them about Ebola and they're acting like doctors. They are going against what health professionals are recommending. And think about it. If you're a healthcare worker, would you fly into New Jersey or New York? No, you might fly into another city now. Who wants to be in a parking lot with a porta potty for 21 days? What are they thinking? She has no symptoms. Anyway, we're also going to have my niece-in-law on the show this week talking about Ebola. She's from Sierra Leone. And, we have to be quarantined because we're around her. I mean, I think this is outrageous. I think this has gotten totally out of control.
Well, in fact, some of the real scientists and real doctors
are
saying that they could be doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said on Sunday that the mandatory quarantines could actually make the Ebola epidemic worse by discouraging healthcare workers from traveling to West Africa to treat the disease.
Yeah.
Cuomo said that he had received no pressure from White House officials to end the state's quarantine. An anonymous administration official told the New York Times that the decision to implement a mandatory 21-day quarantine was uncoordinated, very hurried, an immediate reaction to the New York City case that doesn't comport with science.
Right. But that doesn't matter. We don't need stinking science, do we? We'll just pretend we're doctors. We'll just quarantine people.
Well, now, this wasn't a Republican. This was a Democrat. Mr. Governor
on that.
Cuomo.
But, yes, and Christie, I don't know, the two of them got together because their cities are close and airports are close. This nurse is now suing them.
We'll be right back here on
What
Top
do you
Story.
think? Quarantine, no quarantine. Mandatory, no mandatory.
We're being too cautious or not cautious enough. 736-0300 is the number to call. 736-0300 is the number to call here on Top Story. Coming up, we have Randy Staples with the Idaho Political Update. At 9 o'clock, we'll be talking about possible new presidential candidate by the name of Jeb Bush.
Oh, gosh, one more Bush.
Hey.
One more Bush.
We'll see what you think of that
Oy.
Coming up here. Also, then at 9:20, Jill will be leaving early, but I have
That's right.
11 ways that you can live to your ripe old age of in the 90s.
Yeah, because you just had a birthday
I
Saturday.
did. So, and thanks to you,
Yeah.
You found that article for me.
I did.
Ways to elongate your life.
Right.
So I'll see if I agree with any of it or not.
Yeah.
If I...
What do you think? I doubt it.
All
right.
Before we get back to our discussion, though, and 7360300 is the number to call if you think we're being cautious enough or
Gone a little overboard.
gone overboard with the quarantines.
Or just with the whole thing,
But before we do that, Stanley and Company has the Low and Honey Loader. Everybody knows that
Yes.
because we've been talking about it for quite some time. The Low and Honey Loader, and as we are coming into the winter season, and we may see some more precipitation this winter, it's good to have a wagon around that can take care of the manure at your feedlot or dairy operation. And the Low and Honey Loader can do just that, up to 7 miles an hour, as a matter of fact. And if you want to see one of these in operation before you decide, then why don't you get a hold of Pat Hartzell at 280-1167. That's 280-1167. Pat Hartzell is his name, and he can line you up so you can see one of these in operation, or he can even sell you one if you want one. 280-1167. Pat Hartzell with Stanley and Company. Well, this poor lady, Casey Hickox is her name. That's the nurse who's living in a tent right now. In a parking lot? Where's the parking lot at? Does it say?
I think it's behind the hospital.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Under quarantine at University Hospital in Newark, New Jersey.
Oy, in a tent.
She is the first person quarantined under the strict new policy enacted by New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Wait, one quick question. I thought all hospitals had those, rooms that were...
Negative airflow rooms?
Yes, negative airflow rooms. They don't have one at the hospital in Newark?
I don't know. Now... Let's just take a look at this. Let's say she did have Ebola.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently she does not. But if she did...
According to Christie, she was showing symptoms.
Where would you feel safer about having that patient?
I think I'd
in
send
a
her
tent, in the parking lot, or in the hospital under isolation?
Being treated. If I were her, I'd want to go to another hospital, Emory or the other ones that have been successful in curing these people. I don't know what they're doing.
But as the general public, how would you feel... if at the parking lot out here at St. Luke's they had an Ebola patient living in a tent?
Well, you know what?
Ordered by the governor.
You can only, Governor Otter, one more campaign promise.
Now, wait a minute. That was not an affront to Governor Otter. That was just an example.
Yeah.
Just a sample.
Yeah, because these guys are doctors. Well, first of all, you cannot get it unless you touch their bodily fluids. You can't even get it, I believe, even if they have a fever.
Okay.
So,
but now she had been apparently treating Ebola patients.
Okay. A lot of people haven't come down with Ebola. They had 4 of the nurses on 60 Minutes last night who treated Mr. Duncan who died. We're treating him. None of them have come down with it.
Even the family who lived with him in that apartment and slept with him did not come down.
Right. It's only the bodily fluids. When they start vomiting and having diarrhea and bleeding, is my understanding is what's happening is how they get it.
But if you had someone with Ebola... would you feel better if they were in an isolation room inside a hospital
than a tent?
If they were in the parking lot living in a tent?
No, I mean...
This doesn't even make sense
to me. Is that healthcare in America?
I mean,
isolation. You have Ebola.
I'm going back to Liberia. They got better facilities back there, for crying out loud.
We have one of the most contagious things, that can create an epidemic if you touch it, whatever. But we'll put you in a tent in the back of the hospital with a porta potty for 21 days. Are you kidding? What are they thinking?
Doesn't it get a little bit cold in New Jersey in the wintertime?
It's probably cold right now.
We are getting
Cousin
to that.
Iggy, if you're listening, tell me what the temperature is. Who does this? Who does this? This is your top hospital treatment plan, is a tent in the back with a porta. She's been there 3 days now.
Well, apparently this was on orders from Governor Chris Christie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because he's a doctor and, stuff like that. Sorry, but this is crazy. Crazy.
I just am thinking that if we had a patient living in a tent in Twin Falls, I would not feel that safe.
Well, I would feel safe, but I would have to question St. Luke's. Is that the best you can do? Is a tent in the parking lot?
I don't think they would do that.
No, they have 4. What did Cheryl Becker said? Of course.
They have negative airflow rooms in the hospital.
What? This woman doesn't deserve. And if you had Ebola, they lose so many bodily fluids. That's what kills them.
Apparently, she's going to sue.
Yes.
I can't say as I blame her.
I don't
in a case
either.
like this.
Plus, she was held for 6 hours in the airport, not told anything. No. What are they doing in New Jersey? Eggs. What's happening with your state?
We'll be right back with Randy Staples here on Top Story. 736-0300, the number to call. And we're back. 736-0300, always the number to call here on Top Story. We have, again, since it is Monday morning at 8:40, we have Randy Staples with us from Reidenbaugh Press at reidenbaugh.com with the Idaho political update. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Randy.
Good morning.
Well, we're kind of getting down to the wire here, aren't we? We got, 8 days to go, counting today?
Yeah. It's the campaigning is got to be winding up. It's in its last phases, and considering that there are a lot of people who have already voted, including the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
I voted. Yes.
A lot of people have voted. I have. A lot of people have voted well before Election Day. So really, the campaigning is probably starting to wind down a little bit at this point. A lot of what a candidate can do, they've largely already done.
Well, you think, or do you think that, some people really, I know we're all involved in the news media, and so I think we pay more attention, but to the average Joe, they still have a week. A lot of people, you'll hear them on Election Day, I haven't paid attention, I have to look it up, really, do you think other people, just the normal person, has paid attention up to this point?
Probably not up until very recently. There have been some studies on this kind of thing, and the general rule has been that a lot of people, there's a very large portion of people that don't really pay much attention to politics at all until about the last 3 to 4 weeks, and then the mass of advertising and the direction of news coverage and so on starts to grab them, and they start to think, oh yeah, it's that time of year again. Probably better take a look.
I know some people don't really pay any attention until they actually go in to vote, and then they start going. A lot of them go by name recognition.
Or they are.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit scary, because a lot of those are what you might call low information voters. People that are going in without a lot of information about why they're voting for what they're doing. They haven't done a lot of research. They haven't followed the check of information over time. And these days, when you can look up the record of pretty much anyone and find out what you need online, there's no good reason why you can't do that pretty easily. But there are a lot of people who don't.
Yeah, because after all, everything on the internet is true, right?
But there are some sources that are better than others.
That is true. That is true. So I know we've talked about this before, but I guess as it gets a little closer to election time, it becomes maybe a little bit more apparent. But Idahoans have elected Democrats in the past as superintendent of public instruction, as governors, and such. Do you think that Idaho is really as red when it comes right down to it as it appears many times? I know we have an overwhelming number of Republican elected officials, but in the attitude, do you think we're really that R-oriented?
That's a really interesting, complex question, because you can approach it from a lot of different ways. I think that one thing that has been happening is that people, and not just in Idaho, but in a lot of other places, and not just among Republicans, but among a lot of Democrats as well, that people have been kind of hardening in their party choices. There used to be I have a book on my shelf called The Ticket Splitters that was written in the very early 70s, and what they were pointing out was, at that time, there was a growing phenomenon of people voting for both Democrats and Republicans, and I've talked with a lot of people historically in Idaho who have traditionally split their ballots a lot, but I think that's happening less and less. I was looking at there was one kind of interesting statistic I ran across in terms of legislative districts, is how many legislative districts, and of course each legislative district in Idaho has 3 people that are elected, 1 senator and 2 representatives. So how many of them are split between the parties, have at least 1 member of each party in their legislative district? Mm-hmm. Out of 35 in Idaho, there are only 3 today that split them that way. In every other case, in 32 of the 35 districts, the voters went all for one party or all for the other. 20 years ago, instead of 3, that number was 7. And 40 years ago, instead of 3, the number was 13.
Wow.
Well, do you think because they also gerrymandered a lot of these districts? I mean, I know it's hard in Idaho because we don't have a lot of Democrats, but a lot of the districts have been gerrymandered, and so they are going. I think they've made a more one-party rule.
Well, there were moves in that direction years ago, though, too. You could find some odder districts, and at that time, the districts there were more Democratic districts to consider and to deal with. Now, almost all of the districts, with a few exceptions, mostly clustered around Boise, they're mostly all Republican anyway. So it's not. I don't think it's quite so much that. It's there seems to be a little bit more of a hardening that way generally. So it takes in Idaho. The effect in Idaho means that for a Democrat, it takes really kind of an unusual situation or an exceptional situation for them to break through. And the superintendent of public instruction, maybe that's an example of where it happens. Maybe it could happen somewhere else too, but it's a very difficult challenge because a lot of voters simply go down the ballot and vote a straight party line.
Right. And this year, you wrote in your article, it was a odd analogy for me. I was having a hard time following it, Randy. The tilling of the ground. I'm like, was that good or was that
a little bit of a
I followed it
maybe, but I thought I'd give it a try.
Kelly used to be a farmer.
Perfectly. I followed it perfectly. Being the farmer background, I knew what you were saying.
I was like, was it good or bad?
The idea was that if people are not receptive to what someone is going to say or aren't receptive to hearing someone from one side or one organization, then it's just going to be like rain falling on concrete. It's just going to run off. And in order for there to be, in this case, for Democrats to have their message received, there needs to be some receptivity on the other end.
Well, I'm kind of hearing it from people who said, they're mixing up their votes. I ran into someone in the grocery store the other day, lifelong Republican, but she said, you know what? I'm voting for Democrats in these 3 races. And, I think I think there is some weariness and to see how our state's doing and the things that could happen. I think people are starting to realize maybe, this is a big choice to continue in this direction.
I'm kind of hearing the same thing, too. And actually, I'm seeing it with campaign signs. There will be mixed campaigns, mixed parties in people's yards. They might have Belukoff, but then they might have Ibarra or something like that. It's kind of odd.
Well, my question has been: is the ground changing? And sometimes it can change quietly, and if it does, then that matters a whole lot. Then you could find and you could wind up with a string of Democratic wins, which would be for the first time since 1990.
Yeah,
that's always possible, and we'll see what happens. There is certainly a fair amount of discontent, and remember, the largest political group in Idaho are the independents.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. I mean, they're gonna swing this election.
Now, A.J. Belukoff says, and I quote, "If the FBI finds that CCA defrauded the state of millions of dollars, the state will not be able to pursue CCA for civil damages," end quote, thanks to an agreement made with Otter's top staff. Do you think this accusation is drawing enough attention to hurt Otter in the election, especially this close to the election?
Well, the whole CCA situation got to be a pretty dark situation, not just because of the money and the contracts and the way that those were developed, although there's certainly plenty to talk about there, but because in this case there was such a practical effect. I mean, there are a lot of people in Idaho that remember, because it wasn't that long ago, all the reports about the gladiator school that the tax dollars were supporting. And it was an awful situation, and I think a lot of people do recognize that, and to the extent that Otter's directly tied to it, I think it hurts him somewhat.
Because he did delay investigating him for a year. I remember that.
It was a year
yeah.
between when the reports came out and when people started asking the question, well, where's the investigation on this, and then found that no investigation had been ordered over a very long period of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know, but one of Beloukov's things against Otter is that, well, he needs to step up and be governor on this deal. But yet at the same time, they're saying, well, he should not have been involved with any of the talks on the settlement on this deal because of the campaign money that he received. So now I'm a little bit confused. So when does Otter's line of being governor and not being governor because of a political contribution end and begin?
Well, it's kind of that's kind of an odd thing there to even say something like that, because if his top staffers are doing the negotiation, who are they doing it on behalf of?
Right.
And he was
and
being informed.
and if they're
he
not
said.
informing the governor of what they're doing, and they're not doing it with the governor's permission, then what kind of a situation do we have in the governor's
Right,
office?
exactly.
But I thought he said that he was getting reports on that. And my feeling on this is, even if you're getting campaign donations, why don't you do what's right for the citizens of Idaho?
Yeah.
Instead of recusing yourself, saying, you know what, you have overcharged us millions of dollars. They have defrauded the state. And, who cares what they donated to you? Do what's right. This was just totally, this is taxpayer dollars they were embezzling, basically.
Well, there should have been some recognition that he's responsible regardless.
Yeah.
If they contribute to them, then we all bear that in mind as we come around to the next election. That's kind of the way that works. But if there's a problem there, I mean, that's on him. That it can't be shoved off on some anonymous staff people.
Right,
Really
his
can't.
staff
I
people.
mean, the buck does stop at with the governor.
Right. And then does the settlement that they did with CCA preclude the state to get civil damages if the FBI says clearly they deserve it?
That's kind of a questionable legal gray area. I have the suspicion that we will find out in court which way that winds up going.
Okay.
Now, Secretary of State Benny Sursa, he says he did not vote for the guy. Now, I, along with everybody else, is assuming that he probably voted for Holly Woodings, but just isn't saying so outright. Do you think that's going to help her in the election?
Well, of course, there were some assumptions made in interpreting the statement. This all comes from a Facebook post,
right?
That
and those
Rick
are
Johnson
accurate
from the Idaho Conservation
Well, they can't
League
put them on
posted.
Facebook unless they're true.
Yeah.
So
And he said he didn't even name Usursa. He said a retiring state official, which he was very sorry to see be retiring. And there were only two retiring statewide officials, and Usursa would be the one that certainly that Johnson would be more enamored of. It's as you interpret it, it looks that way. It looks like that's what he was saying. Based on a week ago, we were talking about Penny Usursa, his wife, making a comment about how Lawrence Denny, the Republican nominee, is no Pete Senarusa. And there's been and in the Republican primary, Ben Usursa supported another candidate.
Yeah.
So I would not be at all surprised if it were true.
Yeah.
It would fit with all the facts. For whatever reason, Usursa apparently does not want to overtly, clearly, without any question, do an endorsement, presumably doing an endorsement of a Democrat, which he is, of course, a Republican.
Yeah, it's okay if you do it on the guys, but you can't do it directly, apparently, right?
Maybe there's something there that he wants to be careful of, but that certainly does seem to be the message.
Well, Randy, we are out of time, and we appreciate your input, and we'll see you next Monday, the day before the election.
Should be interesting.
We'll talk with you then.
Very
Thanks,
good. Thank
Randy.
you, sir. Randy Staples from Reidenbaugh Press at reidenbaugh.com, and you can hear him each weekday here at News Radio 1310. I'm sorry, each Monday. Why do I say each weekday?
I don't know,
News Radio 1310. By the way, we will have Secretary of State candidate for Republican ticket Lawrence Denny on tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
That's right.
So stay tuned for that. Coming up, we have the news and then more topics to talk about right here on Top Story. Well, good morning and welcome back to Top Story, 7360300. Always the number to call. Welcome back, Jill.
Thanks, Kelly. Same to you.
Nice to have you here, and it's like 38 right now. The weather is a-changin'.
It's turning.
Wasn't it Saturday that was fairly warm?
It was beautiful, at
Yeah.
the farmer's market. Although, it was a little, the wind.
And then yesterday, things changed.
Things changed.
Rain in the morning. I wonder if we got snow in the upper elevations anywhere.
I thought someone posted that on Facebook. They saw a little snow. A little
Wow.
higher.
Well, it's getting about that time.
Mm-hmm.
Really is. Coming up, I'm going to give you some ways how you can live into your 90s. Actually, I owe this to Jill. Now, Jill you have to step out at 9:20.
I have to scoot out. There's a court case that
So-
I'm involved in.
But
indirectly.
not to leave me unaided. You left me with an article on how to live into your 90s.
Well, especially because you just had your 62nd birthday.
Know. Yeah.
So,
I'm big
I want you to be
62
around as
now.
long as possible so your ham radio basement, has someone in it. Because I know no one will ever see you again. We will never see each other again.
I do have hobbies other than just ham radio.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
In fact, I
woodworking.
really haven't spent a lot of time at my ham radio in the last few months, and I feel guilty about
Anything outside of the house or your basement?
No,
will I
it's
ever
pretty
see
much
you
all
again?
at the
Yeah, I
house.
know. We will never see Kelly Class again. Which I just want to remind people, your going away party is Thursday, November 20th at the Turf Club between 5 to 8. It's open to the public.
that. Yeah. It'd be nice to see everybody there.
Yeah.
We'll have a Kelly Class roast or something.
Yeah, why
you
not?
know?
Why not? Yeah, why not? That's all I can say.
At any rate, we do have a caller to start off this hour, so let's go ahead and take it. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kelly and Jill.
Hello there.
Kyle, where you been?
Jill, I
What?
have to thank you for the last comedy episode on the last segment.
Which part?
What part? The part where you're hammering on Otter for the same things we were hammering on Obama for, and you defended him to high hilts, but yet now, because possibly it happened under a Republican, you got to attack. It's just hilarious how it changes when it's an R or a D.
So you think it's okay that because he got campaign funds, he didn't
I never
pursue
said
something?
it was okay. I never said that. I
Well-
said it was comical how you changed your platform when there was
My
an
platform.
R or a D.
Which
When-
part? Which part did he?
When it was
Did
a
he not
D
investigate
and we
it?
were complaining,
About
Julia,
what?
You backed him up 100% and never said anything. Do I think Otter has a problem? Yes. But he did not sign any paperwork that tagged him to it. Neither did Obama, neither did a bunch of other people that you backed up. Oh, you can't do that because he didn't know what was going on. It was his staff.
Why don't
No,
you give a
now
few
that it's
more
Otter's staff, it's a whole
details?
different subject, Jill.
What are you
It's
talking about?
hilarious. It's
Which
so-
part of Obama are you talking about? Actually, Governor Otter said he was getting reports from his staff on this thing.
So did the president. I just
What
think it's
are
hilarious
you
how
referring
you
to
change
for
your
Obama?
principles when there's an RRD.
Well, if you can't tell me specifically what it is with Obama, he's been in office over 5 years.
I don't
Then I
have
don't know
to
what.
be specific, Jill. Every time we brought
Oh,
him
okay.
up for
There
something,
you go.
All right, well, anyway.
If you don't have any specifics, then I'm sorry.
I know what he's saying, though.
I don't know what he's
I get you,
saying.
Kyle. I know what
I
you're
don't
saying.
give.
There's-
I do not
there's
give
a lot of
President
things.
Obama on a pass on everything. But if you have made up
Yeah, you do,
no,
Jill.
I
Yeah,
do not.
You pretty much do.
I do
Yeah,
not.
pretty much
And
do.
let me say, do you ever give him any credit for anything? Never. Never.
Let me think.
Does any caller give him credit for anything?
anything good?
Oh, let me see. They killed Osama bin Laden. He's brought the stock market up. He's gotten insurance to
Actually-
people that. Oh, don't say he hasn't, because it was 8,000 when he started. Now it's over 16.
It's come up in spite of him.
Oh, yeah. He's done nothing. He's listened to the Republicans who had a great plan, cut taxes. Look what's happening in Kansas. If you want to see the Republican plan, go look and see the state of affairs in Kansas.
You know, there are plenty of Democratic states running that are not in good shape, too.
His thing is the exact policies that the Republicans talk about. He cut income tax. He cut any business tax. He went from a $700 million surplus to a $300 million deficit. Sam Brownback Go look it up, people. Education is in the toilet, and they have Republican leaders who are gathering together saying, we're not voting for him again. That was the Republican experiment, which he called it. Check out Kansas. Those are your policies. And kudos for Obama for not following them.
Well, we got another caller here. Top story, you're on the air. Good morning.
The bottom line is Jill is anti-American liberal. She proves it every day.
I am not anti-American because I have different views. And you know, when you want the president to fail, who's anti-American?
We might have to get off onto this North Dakota thing, you know.
God, let's talk about personhood. Quick. That's another great idea. Let's have a personhood bill.
We got one more caller. Let's take it.
A personhood
Top story, you're
bill.
on the air.
Give me
Good morning.
break.
Good morning. Got to get one more jab in, I see.
What? What?
Yeah. Anyway, let's say Butch Otter's implied in this. Well, okay, let's say Obama was implied in Fast and Furious. He was implied in IRS. He was implied into, let's see, Benghazi. How many different things was he implied into, and he's gotten a pass? And by the way, Kelly did praise Obama whenever he took out that Al-Qaeda leader with a drone a few years back.
Did he?
Yes, he did. I remember that.
Do you? Wow, that's a great memory. Well, also you can remember, too, that, you know, those things have been investigated. Even Republicans over the committees from Benghazi, and they haven't found anything negligent. These are made-up conspiracies, and you keep saying it, Benghazi, but they haven't found anything, and they've had hearing after hearing after hearing, I think 11 of them, and the last one was headed by Republicans, and there you go. But you know, there's no discussing facts with any of you people.
Can't change history. I mean, it did happen, and yet nobody was responsible. It's just amazing how some of the stuff in this country and out of this country happens. Stuff happens, but nobody is responsible. It's amazing.
They made changes, but when under President Reagan, wasn't that when the embassy was blown up? Over 200 people were killed when the embassy in I'm blanking on the city was destroyed. And you know what? You have embassy people killed all the time. Under Bush, there were 54. So you know what? Things happen, and you don't hear anything under a Republican president, do you?
I don't know if we're going to get to our subject
Quick,
or not.
bring it up. Personhood. One other idea. Let's put women in jail when they have a miscarriage. Let's give a death certificate every time you miscarry. What a great idea this one is.
In less than 2 weeks, North Dakota voters will head to the polls and cast their ballots on a radical effort to overhaul the state's constitution and redefine legal personhood in a way that includes fertilized eggs. Polling indicates that the fight over Amendment 1 will be close, potentially making North Dakota the first state in the country to enact a radical personhood measure, something that abortion opponents have been attempting to do for 4 decades, but hardly anyone is talking about it. In September, reporting on the ballot measure for Cosmopolitan, writer Robin Marty described Amendment 1 as the abortion amendment America forgot. When she talked to residents in North Dakota, most of them had never heard of it. I do find it really interesting that this has kind of flown under the radar during the election season, says Elizabeth Nash, the senior states issues associate at the Guttmacher Institute. Certainly, I know people are very focused on the U.S. Senate and governor's races, but I'm not quite sure why this issue hasn't come up more. If this passes, it will have a ripple effect, certainly in the state and maybe even farther. The way I understand it, this will give personhood rights to unfertilized eggs.
No, a fertilized egg.
Once
you're fertilized egg.
A fertilized egg,
right.
Starting from there. My question is why shouldn't it? Why shouldn't it have personhood rights?
You're kidding me, right?
No, I'm not. A fertilized egg
really?
is a human being at that point.
Oh, it can vote. It can do things. You're going to have a death certificate every time someone miscarries. Are you going to have someone investigate? You're going to charge a woman with murder?
It is a lie.
This is outrageous. This will invalidate birth control.
I don't understand.
Are you kidding
how
me?
people. No, I'm not kidding
Wow.
you. A fertilized egg is nothing. At what point does it become someone?
You have a fertilized egg with a few little cells. And that is a person? No, it's a potential for a person. You're going to give that full right. So if you miscarry, which a lot of women do in the first 3 months, they're going to have to report it to the police. They're going to have an investigation. They're going to have a death certificate. Are they going to have a social security number the minute you get impregnated? Are you kidding?
No, you only get social security numbers after you're born.
Oh, really? No, but according to this would be full personhood rights. That's what the bill is. It's outrageous.
I think once again, now you're taking it out to the nth degree.
No, I'm not. They are having full rights as a person.
At what point does the fertilized egg become a person?
This is what they're saying. This bill is the moment it's fertilized.
What is it now?
It's not. It's when you deliver the baby, then they're a person.
But
they're viable outside of your body.
But you can't have an abortion after, 28 weeks or something like that?
It's after 24. And then you have late term if there were complications.
But after 24,
some have made
you
it
can't
20.
have an abortion because why? Is it a person at that point?
I don't know. It's either more viable, but they define a person as something outside of when it's born. That's a person. That's when they get their rights.
Well, apparently not if you can't abort a fetus after 28 weeks, if it's still in the mother's womb.
But they do not get full personhood rights at that point. If for some reason she loses the baby after...
You can't abort it, though.
Right.
So why...
That's the whole point.
So why should you be able to abort an egg that has just been fertilized?
Really, Kelly? It's just a bunch of little cells?
Just a bunch of little cells.
You would give... Yeah, if you took that out of the body, would that be a person? No. Exactly. So why would you give it full rights as a person?
Not as far as being able to manipulate as can we.
But why would you give it full rights as a person at that point?
Because it is a fertilized egg.
Well,
and
obviously we're going to disagree.
It will be a person.
What happens when a woman miscarries?
Then that's a medical issue, and and it's an accidental death.
No, you'd have to report it to the police. You'd have to have a policeman come to your house.
Do you if it happens after 28 weeks, but before it's born?
I don't think so. If you go to the doctors, I don't think so. Some people will bury it. Some people don't. Some people do whatever. I don't think you call the police. You call your OBGYN. People do abort. My one girlfriend had to carry a dead body in her till she could deliver it.
I've always considered a human being as a fertilized egg. I'm one of those weird ones that do that because it's going to become a human being.
So the question is, do they get full rights at that point? And that's the problem. It's been voted down in 4 states, Nevada, Oklahoma, Virginia, and Florida. It would prevent people from in vitro. It would prevent forms of birth control. Go ahead, though, Cal. That's great. We live in America, right?
We'll see what the voters in North Dakota think about that.
They don't even know about it, so they probably will put it under a different name, and they'll vote for it, and they won't know anything about it.
I'll bet it's defeated.
I hope so.
It's defeated.
I hope so.
Not to say I hope it is, but I'll bet it is.
I gotta go.
Okay, bye, Jill. Thank you. Send Benito in, and we'll talk about ways to live to 100 years old coming up next here on Top Story. We're back. Jill, you've changed.
I have, Kelly. That's probably the worst impression I've ever done.
My. Yeah, it probably is.
No, I'm lost. Where am I?
Benito Baez is setting in for Jill Scheme here this morning on Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call. By the way, Friday's $100 instant winning name is John Yor.
John Yor.
And your $100 word of the day for today is goblin.
Goblin.
Goblin. So you go to our website, newsradio1310.com, click on word of the day up at the top there, type in goblin, and listen tomorrow. And if you hear your name tomorrow and you played the word today, then you win $100.
Yeah, you win.
That's right.
But you got to play.
Yes. Hey, you went to Lagoon over the weekend.
I did. We finally made it. It was the last full weekend that they have in the season, and it was packed. I think one ride we waited more than 15 minutes to get through.
Oh, well,
it was
that's
just
not
ridiculous.
Real bad, is it?
At Lagoon, yeah, because I've gone before, and we've gotten through, and just didn't have to wait very long except to jump on the ride.
Yeah.
So it was pretty.
Everybody there for the last weekend. Huh?
Yeah, last full Saturday and last full Sunday. So
weather was nice too. Wasn't it?
It was great. It was perfect.
It was nice here on Saturday.
A little breezy, but that was okay because it was warm. So it helped. A lot different than today.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, hey, welcome back. Thanks for sitting in for Jill in these last few minutes. Actually, I I celebrated my 62nd birthday on Saturday.
You don't look a day over 51.
I didn't think so either. Thank you very much for saying that. Here's your $20 bill.
Thank you. Wait. You said 40.
I'll pay you more later. I'll give you the other half after payday.
Okay.
But anyway, so Jill finds an interesting article in how we can live old and prosper.
Old and prosper?
Well,
you can do it at the same time?
No, not really.
Both at the same time?
You can live older now. And it's interesting that I didn't know this, but when President Nixon was president, everybody who turned 100, he would send a congratulatory card to.
Really?
Only there were so few of them that he actually signed them personally. They can't do that now because there are a lot of people reaching 100.
Wow.
So it's kind of a, when we hear all people are not as healthy today as we were 50 years ago, but yet we're living to longer ages.
Well, I'm curious because, a lot of people now are turning 100, over 100. But Dorothy Custer's over 105 now, 106, I think.
Really?
Somewhere in there. Well, maybe not.
She's
over 100 anyways.
Yeah.
But then they say today that, we're eating stuff, that there's a bunch of stuff in our food that we shouldn't be eating.
Everything we eat's poison.
So maybe, are we going to make it to 100? I mean, maybe they hit it at the right time where they ate the right stuff, they lived the right way, and it just happened in their lifetime, and that was...
And they were eating the good stuff when it counted in your younger years, I guess. Well, you might have a point there. My dad is a perfect example. Well, my mom, too. My mom just passed away in April, but she was 96 and just shy of her, or 95, I guess, just shy of her 96th birthday. My dad is 97 and still kicking. So that's got to tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, what can we do to live longer? We used to virtually have nobody who lived 90 to 100 years old, according to Claudia Kawas, a geriatric neurologist and professor of neurology and neurobiology and behavior, who's co-directing the project at a clinic for aging research and education in Laguna Woods, California. And this is where she said that President Nixon used to send a card to everyone in the U.S. who had their 100th birthday. There were so few that he signed them himself.
Okay.
But they can't do that because people are living longer. So she says, do what your mother told you, Kawa says, in espousing a healthy diet to keep waistlines down, as well as exercise, no smoking, and socialization.
Really?
Socializing is important
for
that. They say we want to live full lives and not be disabled and frail, according to Dana Greenia, a clinical researcher, administrator of the project. I think you should do the basics of what we learned in kindergarten. Eat healthy foods, exercise, read, and keep the brain active, and socialize.
I believe the brain part. If you keep your brain active,
too.
I think that'll keep you going a long time.
And I'm sorry, but sitting in front of the television set, drinking a beer until bedtime is not keeping the brain active.
No.
Sorry, just saying. Don't be depressed. Try to be happy. If depression comes into play, get treatment and do what it takes to get to a happy place. Okay, so the study has its origins from a questionnaire of 14,000 people in a Southern California retirement community back in 1981.
Really?
It's been updated by contacting those in that group who were still alive and documenting what happened to those who already died. I really believe, they say, that when we learn things from the 90-year-olds, that's going to help the 60 and 70-year-olds not just know how to become 90-year-olds, but how to do it with style and as good a function as possible, according to Kawas. Kawas says she expected to find that exercise was associated with living longer. It doesn't have to be every day, and it doesn't have to be vigorous exercise. On average, 15 minutes was best to see mortality benefits compared to those who don't. Researchers say it can be any form of exercise, from walking, running, swimming, and even gardening. 30 minutes was better, and 45 minutes a day was best. But after 45 minutes, didn't seem to matter.
Okay.
3 hours a day didn't do any better than 45 minutes a day of exercise.
Well, there you go.
And it didn't all have to be at once.
Huh.
So anyway, we'll continue with these little cues when we come back here on Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call here on Top Story. Some tips on how you can live longer coming up, and it's really important to me now that I've reached the threshold.
62.
Yes.
Is that the threshold?
62 used to seem old to me.
No, you got a long ways to go now, so.
And now it seems like I'm just barely getting started in life, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
you're just barely over half.
When I was 16 years old, I mean 62. Oh my gosh, I'll probably never make it that far. But at any rate, the folks this is chainsaw and leaf blower season.
It is.
And if you don't believe it, just look around. A lot of people are out cutting their firewood for the winter. A lot of people are out trimming up the trees for the winter. A lot of people are out raking leaves. I don't know if anybody rakes leaves or not.
Oh, they
anymore.
do. A neighbor came up by the other day, asked to borrow the rake. I said,
really?
Sure, here you go. And they were raking their leaves. So.
The only reason you can take this is if you rake my leaves too.
Yeah, I should have done that. I said, well, you have to rake mine if you're going to use it.
Well, you can do it now with a leaf blower.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you?
Why not?
You know, why would you? I know it's better. We're talking about exercising as you get older. And I know raking, but some people, you know, like for me, it's just too hard to work. To run that rake.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot easier to run the leaf blower, an Echo leaf blower from Clearwater Power Equipment, and the chainsaw too.
Yeah.
You know, so they have moved. They've expanded into the Twin Falls area after being in the Wood River Valley for a long time. And the folks at Clearwater Power Equipment would like you to stop by and see their lineup of chainsaws and leaf blowers. You'll be surprised what you can do with a leaf blower. I cleaned my shop out with it.
Did you? Just blow out the corners?
Yeah,
and
works great.
Hey.
And you can get the ceiling and everything. You just blow that thing all over the place and get stuff that you couldn't reach normally with a broom. So anyway, leaf blowers and chainsaws by Echo from Clearwater Power Equipment. They're at 252 Washington Street, or 734-7767 is the number to call. We got a call here, so before I give you any more tips on living longer, maybe here's another tip. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Here's a little interesting statistic. It's not from me. It's an actual statistic that the number one killer in America is doctors and hospitals.
I've heard that before. I have heard that. But on the other hand, doctors are, well, never, I won't make that comparison. But you've heard the comparison before about, you know, doctors, you can't live with them and you can't live without them, you know. And I know a lot of doctors make a lot of mistakes, you know.
But who doesn't?
I know. I wouldn't want a country without doctors.
No, I wouldn't either.
But I think it's like anything else, you have to visit in moderation.
Right.
You know, everything in moderation. Okay, so what the research of more than 1,600 participants found dispels some popular notions. One is that vitamin supplements don't matter in helping people live longer.
Really?
Vitamin E was one of our favorite things because it was popular, and they said it might be useful in dementia and a powerful antioxidant. They thought it would be related to good things in aging, but in our society, it just doesn't seem to be related to anything except maybe expensive urine. Interesting stuff. I've never taken vitamin E, vitamins, but as for what people should weigh, Kawa says that depends on how old they are. The study dispels the myth that people should keep the weight off their entire lives. I did not know this. This is certainly good news to me. What the study shows, she says, is being overweight is bad when you're younger, especially in your 50s and 60s. Okay, I get the point. But it becomes neutral in your 70s and protective of your health in your 80s and 90s.
No kidding.
Yeah. There's a similar result for blood pressure.
Really?
We learn about what's optimal, and we study 50 and 60-year-olds, and then we pretend that whatever we learned for 50 or 60 years old is the same as for 80-year-old or 90-year-olds, and that's an error, Kawa says. The optimal blood pressure and optimal weight when you're 50 and 60 is lower than the optimal blood pressure or weight for an 80 or 90-year-old. That information reinforces the notion that old people aren't just bad versions of young people. Kawa says an infant needs to have a different diet than a 5-year-old. Illnesses that a toddler has are different than the illnesses that an adolescent has. Interesting stuff. The reason higher weight appears to be good in those older because it helps fight infection, and it also appears to provide food for the brain as we age, Kawa says. Higher blood pressure is acceptable in older people because it helps push the blood through the body and brain when the circulation system isn't as clean as when we're young.
It balances out. Wow.
Some of the surprises in the study show that a couple of cups of coffee a day, in essence taking in caffeine, and taking in a moderate amount of alcohol a day, are both associated with longer life. Researchers, however, are not suggesting those who don't drink to start now. You always run the risk in an observational study like this that it has nothing to do with caffeine or alcohol, but has to do with something else. In those examples, maybe it's not that alcohol or caffeine that's fabulous for you, but maybe socializing is fabulous for you, and maybe the people who drink alcohol and coffee are more likely to get out there of their house and socialize.
Maybe.
I don't know. That might be a stretch, but I see where they're trying to go with that.
But interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting findings.
We got a few more tips when we come back. We'll wrap this up here on Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Just happened to think when we did our word for the day, the word of the day is actually brought to you by the Happy Landing Restaurant.
At the Twin Falls Airport.
That's right. You don't have to be flying in or flying out in order to be able to eat at the Happy Landing.
You can just drive down there.
Yeah, you don't even have to go through a metal detector to get into it. You know, it's just kind of out there on its own. Right now, it's connected to the terminal.
Right.
But and if you are a first-time visitor and you go out and tell them you heard it on News Radio 1310 KLIX or Kelly Class and buy a coffee or a pop or something like that, you get a free piece of pie.
That name will get you anywhere.
Won't it? Yeah, it'll get you anywhere, all right, including a free night in jail, probably. But at any rate, Happy Landing Restaurant. Tell them I sent you. Have a good time. It's a great place to eat. I eat there all the time. Okay, continuing on with our tips on how to live longer.
Don't live through Mondays.
Yeah. That's exactly
Skip to
right.
Tuesdays.
Kawa says the one disappointing aspect of the study she hoped would happen is the risk of dementia would ultimately decrease with age. Even if society rid itself of Alzheimer's, dementia would be prevalent. The study shows that more than 40% of people 90 and older suffer from dementia, and that almost 80% are disabled. The conditions are more common in women. She says she's not convinced yet that it's inevitable, but what I am convinced of, she says, that it's very high, and unfortunately it's higher for a 100-year-old than it is for a 95-year-old, and it's higher than 95-year-old. It's higher than 95-year-old than 90-year-old, and higher for a 90-year-old than anyone else. Kawa says age continues to be the strongest risk factor for dementia. So the older you get, I guess, the more apt you are to
your body ages, your brain ages.
Exactly.
So.
A lack of exercise increases the risk of dementia. But people should also exercise their brain, which is vital for longer life and staying mentally alert as long as possible. People, however, need to broaden their notions about brain exercise. Doing the crossword puzzles for the 500th time is probably less valuable than the first 10 times you do the crossword puzzles. She encourages people to learn new things for stimulation.
Okay. I probably should do that.
Yeah.
When you get out of school, you just kind of stop absorbing information on purpose,
Yeah,
and
you do.
Just because you've been rung through the ringer.
She says it doesn't have to be a cognitive exercise like a puzzle. Social engagement in talking to people, going to a museum, learning new things, and going to see a play, all those count just as much. Social engagement is worth more than a crossword puzzle in terms of value. Don't be isolated. Be with people.
I guess people keep you alive.
Yeah, apparently so. Socializing is good. So, like going to church, it would be good.
Right.
Going to the senior citizen center would be good.
Yeah, for lunch.
Playing cards, going for lunch, going for the fellowship.
Yeah.
So, see, I'm going to have to keep this and write these down in a list. Otherwise, I'll forget them.
Yeah, don't forget them. So.
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to have to do something. But at any rate, it's just good stuff to know. Some of the myths that we've had, that higher blood pressure, the older you get, is worse for you. That's apparently not the case.
Right, but you know how studies work. Somebody will come in and say, "Hey, well, no, that's not right." You know.
Oh, exactly.
Didn't eggs go through the same thing?
Yeah. Just about everything we eat today, at one time or another, has been on the don't eat list.
Uh-huh.
And vice versa.
Right.
7360300. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yes, you mentioned about the senior center. You forgot about the exercise that the seniors do. And also, I square dance, and a lot of people are doing that nowadays. And that helps a lot of your exercise and your mind, because the square dancing, you got to pay attention and all that kind of stuff.
You got to listen to the caller, don't you?
You bet. In fact, the class is going to start up the first Monday and first Wednesday at American Legion Hall in Buell.
All
right. That sounds
7
like
o'clock, so bring them on.
All right. Okay. Sounds good.
Square
Thanks for that tip.
See,
have you ever square danced?
No, because I am not coordinated. I'd be going in the opposite direction from everybody else.
Well, years and years and years and years ago, I was in my 20s. My dad had a farm out southwest town, had a big, huge barn on it.
Oh, wow.
And the local square dance club got together and cleaned the hayloft out and had dances up in that barn loft.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It was the darndest thing. And I even square danced for a while.
Wow, I'd like to see that now.
Yeah, I know. But, it's kind of fun because you learn the calls, the Alameda left, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
I always thought it would be kind of fun to be a caller.
Yeah.
But and then again, your mouth has to be coordinated
right.
to do stuff
yeah,
like that.
Too.
But at any rate, square dancing that would be the fun, and it would be good for you as far as the exercise and the cognitive, because you got to listen, you got to pay attention to know what to do.
What to do, yeah. See, my folks love to dance, and that's their exercise is dancing.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's great. I am not a very good dancer, never have been a very good dancer. Never wanted to be a very good dancer.
Yeah.
It's been kind of down on my list. But
I haven't danced in a while.
The older I get, I might have to consider the square dancing thing again. Yeah. But at any rate, hey, it's fun stuff. Good information to know here.
Yeah.
It's time now for the Huckabee Report, brought to you by Waddell & Reed. You can give them a call at 736-6563. You can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell & Reed, Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger, financial advisors. 736-6563 is the number to call. You've heard me talking about Infrared Baron. It's the overflights that they do at Far More of Idaho as they fly over your fields, take infrared photography, and then they upload those pictures to your computer, and then you can actually see how your fields are doing with the water, with your water irrigation system. And you might be surprised to see that there are some dry spots, or there might be some that are wetter than they should be. That means you need to make some adjustments to your irrigation system. And they can help you with that at Far More of Idaho. These overflights do not cost, they pay. And I know that we're kind of winding down now. In fact, the water's out of the canal system I saw as I drove over the bridge over the weekend. I thought, they turned the water off. So
don't need it anymore.
Won't be any more watering now, but it'll give you time to talk to the folks at Far More of Idaho for next spring and decide what you're going to do. Far More of Idaho at 324-3341 or at farmoreofidaho.com. Now, it's also coming up this Friday. It's Trick or Treat on Bishop Street.
Hey, that's always fun.
Yeah, and Benito's going to be there dressed up as a radio news director.
Yep.
And I'm going to be there. Well, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going.
Just
because
show up, you'll find out.
It'll be, since this will be my last one, it'll be a special costume.
I can't wait.
But I've told you what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But you can't tell
I'm
anybody.
not saying anything.
You're under strict orders. That's right.
I'll have to give the 20 back.
Yeah, that's right. It's coming up this Friday at the Fred Meyer parking lot, and Trick or Treat on Bishop Street. It's going to be fun. South Central Community Action Partnership will be on site accepting donations of non-perishable food items for the local families in need. So it's a local charity. Bishop's is going to be there with their RVs.
Yep.
All kind of reminds me of a wagon train.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to. Yeah.
Put them in a big circle, and then bring the kids from 3:30 till 6. dress them up into their Halloween costumes. They can have fun, go around there, get a bag full of stuff, and at that point, if you want, you can go home and the kids will have lots of stuff, or you'll have plenty of time to take them out and do other things, because it is a Friday night after all, and it does get over with at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
So see you in the Fred Meyer parking lot for Trick or Treat on Bishop Street this Friday. Should be fun. Well, hey, Benito, thanks for setting in for Jill for these last few moments.
Hold down the seat while she's had takeoff.
That's right, and she'll be back for the entire thing tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, we will have Secretary of State candidate Lawrence Denny on the Republican ticket as our guest from 9 until 9:20.
All right.
Plus,
elections next week.
I know. Won't be long now. It seemed like a week ago it was months away. Now it's just a week away.
I know.
That's how time flies. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Goodbye, Benito.
Bye.